Hello, Unified community. Welcome to the Unified Exchange podcast, where we at Special Olympics Minnesota share ideas and stories that foster inclusion in and outside the classroom. Each episode, you can expect us to cover a variety of topics to help grow the unified programming happening at your school. Our hope is that these conversations can inspire change, cultivate leaders, and transform environments that embrace each other's differences.
Welcome back to the Unified Exchange. My name is Maxine Jennings, and on behalf of the school's team at Special Olympics Minnesota, I am excited to introduce our guest educators. This episode, we have the opportunity to learn from National Banner School and ESPN Honor Roll educators and champions of inclusion, Suzi Fish from Shakopee High School and Shawn Perez from Watertown Mayer High School. Thank you for joining us today. I think it's really fitting because we are filming today on Teacher Appreciation Day to get to be spending it with two fantastic educators. As educators, each of you model inclusion every day. I have the opportunity to witness how through modeling meaningful inclusion, educators across the state of Minnesota harness the power of observation, model values and respect, support empowerment and resilience, and build trust and understanding of living unified. So for our team connector, I would love to learn who in your life modeled inclusion for you. And I will go first because the educator that modeled inclusion for me was my mom. And I remember having the awareness from a very early age that being an educator is one of the hardest jobs that there is. And I really loved that she delighted in understanding how each of her students learn and that students learn in different ways. And then the amount of work and dedication she put into making her classroom be a place where every learning style was honored and all of her students could excel and be their true self. So that is something that I'm really thankful to have as someone that has modeled inclusion. So Suzi, would you share first?
Sure. Someone that really modeled inclusion for me started when I was really young. One of my neighbors growing up, her little brother, Shane, has Down syndrome, and she was a friend from first grade on, and the way that her family really created opportunities for him and just kind of modeled and were the embodiment of what you would want for a child with a disability. So that was my first exposure and really kind of set me on my path to be a special educator. So
That's amazing.
Mine is similar. We had a neighbor that had Down syndrome that I was fortunate to babysit for, and just saw my parents and their family and how they interacted together, and then knowing, there was nothing for me to be afraid of as a young child who was going to start babysitting. And then that family had their child very involved in Special Olympics, and I got to see through the years how special that was to her and how that helped her in so many ways.
It's amazing. I love hearing how each of your inclusion journeys started at such a young age and how impactful that is for the students now that you're passing that along to. Thank you for engaging in our Team Connect. We're going to head next into our game time segment of the show. So that's when we will have an interview portion, and we're going to have a gauntlet of questions for each of you. So thank you for being willing to share. Our episode, we're going to focus on National Banner School recognition. So right now, the application process to become a National Banner School is open. You have through June 2nd, and to our audiences that is listening, we really would love you to consider applying. We have so many Minnesota Unified Champion schools that are really achieving the 10 standards that we will discuss. A Unified Champion school receiving National Banner recognition is one that has demonstrated commitment to inclusion by achieving 10 standards. These standards are based on the 3 overarching components that Special Olympics Unified Champion schools have. So that's Unified Sports, Inclusive Youth Leadership, and Whole School Engagement. National Banner schools also demonstrate that they have a plan in place to sustain these activities into the future. So would you each share a little bit about what drew each of you to bringing the 3 pillars of Unified Champion schools to Shakopee and Watertown Mayer? Suzi.
So 11 years ago, we started a very small program. It was called Glomies, but the way it started was we had a parent who had inquired on if there were any inclusive opportunities for her daughter, for her child, and I was new to the position at the time, so I wasn't sure. So I asked around, and there was not anything specifically. So I kind of just from there connected with some teachers, and we started something small. A couple years later, someone from Special Olympics Minnesota contacted us and kind of opened my eyes to all of the opportunities that were out there. So, we already had the unified club in place, but we knew that we could grow. We didn't know how to grow and where to even go from there. So Special Olympics did a fantastic job of exposing us to the opportunities and how we could grow our programs through whole school engagement and unified sports. So that was, they kind of came in at the perfect time because we knew we wanted to grow, and so right there was the opportunity, and we took it. So
That's pretty cool.
For myself at Watertown Mayor, I have a son who had been involved with Special Olympics for quite a few years, and I saw all the benefits that he was receiving, all the fabulous opportunities he was getting, as well as even a parent, how wonderful it was to connect with other parents in the same or similar positions in life. And I wanted to bring that to school. They were very open. I was very fortunate that happened, and my goal was to be able to give all of those students these same opportunities and to see their self-worth and their abilities, and to have others experience that as well.
That's cool. I feel like I'm seeing a theme of the champions within the schools. It's the parents and the teachers so far, and it's really cool to see that you kind of both had a similar seed for the Unified Champion schools within your school. What were some initial barriers and challenges that you overcame in the process?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind was just kind of getting everyone on board. So something like a unified program can be a big undertaking. So getting all the stakeholders on board, kind of letting them or trying to teach them the benefits and how it can positively affect schools and districts. So that was a big piece. Time can be hard to come by as a teacher. So that was something because we all have great ideas and we know how we want them to turn out, but the actual implementation and the time that it takes to get all those things to happen can really be a barrier. So I think it was, initially the hard part, but then once we got people on board, we were able to kind of spread the love and share the planning and the time.
And I think for me, it was just getting the initial student buy-in, and then as well as just the parents trusting my process and that what Special Olympics was all about, and just really including them, believing that their children are capable of doing these things.
And I'm always blown away with when our student leaders step up what they can do and how excited they are. How did Special Olympics Minnesota come alongside and support your schools on the path to becoming Unified Champion schools?
So Special Olympics was instrumental in our growth. Like I said, we started off really small and we didn't know how to grow and where to put our efforts in to grow and to reach more people. So one of the best things to help us become self-sustainable was access to opportunities to fundraise and to really grow our funds so that we could do things with our students in the Unified Club. Also connecting us with other schools and other unified programs to bounce ideas off and to create opportunities for getting those programs together. That was a huge piece. And then additionally, just having access to resources for the three different pillars. How can you take those resources and utilize them with what you've got? So huge, without Special Olympics Minnesota, we would not be what we are today.
You said everything plus more than I would say. They're always available from the start. I know one additional thing I had when we first started, and maybe even continue to sometimes might miss a deadline, and they were so ready to offer grace in those situations and understood that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes and that we might miss a little thing once in a while.
I think that you mentioned, I think the strongest resource really that our Unified Champion Schools has is the educators and that network that's been built. And so whenever we come across a barrier or a challenge, it's been such a great gift to be able to reach out to an educator and say, have you faced this barrier? And it's been really awesome to see educators coming alongside and supporting and sharing what works and overcoming all of these challenges. So we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about how each of your schools supports the 3 pillars of Unified Champion Schools in alignment with National Banner School standards. Starting with Unified Sports, National Banner Schools offer at least 2 Unified Sports seasons throughout the school year. Coaches have received training on Special Olympics Unified Sports, and sports are officially recognized by the school. Can you each share how Unified Sports became officially recognized by your school and what that looks like today?
So Unified Sports, it actually started, first we had our Unified PE class, and that was established about 6 years ago. But from there, due to interest, into parent interest, and how excited the participants, the athletes and the partners were, we were like, what sports after school sound like they might be fun for you or something that you would be able to participate in? So we slowly were able to add in after school activities and sports and competitions so that we could participate in those programs. So just from day-to-day thing, the Unified PE and then the after school opportunities to participate in those sports. We also have for any of the trophies or plaques that we get, we have a little display case that is alongside all of the other athletes or the other teams, which is really special. Our students love when they're on their way to class around the building to see themselves in that display case. So that's really important. Also, we have our banner from over the years displayed in the lunchroom in the cafeteria, and it's a really big school. We have almost 3,000 students at Shakopee High School, so that's really cool to see that front and center, just the pride that the school has in our athletes and in the things that we do.
We jumped right into sports at Watertown. So initially starting with just a few, we currently offer 5 different sports a year. We start even before school starts with flag football. We've gone into sports that are even outside of the Unified Championship School offerings, into the regular delegation offerings. One of the really neat things within probably the first 2 years, our school allowed us to create a varsity patch, and our students can earn varsity letters. And we as well offer all of their trophies and their pictures and the banners and everything else that we so fortunately get, and they're proudly displayed right in our school along with everything else.
It's awesome. There's so much pride that the athletes can take from that. Shawn, you just finished up your Unified Soccer Invitational.
We did.
That's pretty awesome. Moving on to our second pillar, a National Banner School has achieved the following standards of inclusive youth leadership. So they have a unified club that offers leadership opportunities and meets at least once per month throughout the school year. There's an educator liaison, and this unified club is officially recognized by the school in a similar style as other clubs and activities. Each of you has fostered beautiful, inclusive student leadership, and I'm curious today, when did you start seeing that student leadership really begin to lead the inclusion revolution at the school? In all of the schools that we work with, there's this turning point where we see like the educator has modeled inclusive behavior and kind of set the seed for the programming, but then the students take it over, and that's what changes the culture of the school.
I would say I really saw the shift around year 3. So that first year, like I said, was pretty small, and it was really only known by the students who participated in it. And the second year, I think more were kind of catching on and through seeing the different things we were doing around the school. But I feel like the third year was when I really saw it shift from being kind of just a club to like a whole school-wide mentality. And the reason I knew that was happening was because when I went out to like check on my students during their lunches, I couldn't find them at their table because they were everywhere. They were dispersed in social groups all around the cafeteria. It was that perfect picture of what inclusion looks like, where it's just like, it's everyone together. It's not just, the students in special education at one table at lunch and maybe some friends with them. They are sitting everywhere and engaging, and they've got friends, asking them to hang out after school and doing things on the weekends. So I would say year 3 was when I saw that shift, and it has thankfully continued.
That's awesome.
I believe that I saw it our second year. We're a much smaller school. But I know that when I'm in my classroom and I can hear all of the hello to our students and the high fives that are happening, and just their attendance even increased. Our special kids, they were always at school, and I agree, they were no longer sitting just at their table at lunch. They're everywhere, sitting with lots of different kids, and everybody really wanted to be their friend.
That's awesome. I love when you see it going outside of the school and like into birthday parties or after school activities. I remember Unified at the school that I worked with, I found out they all had arranged a bowling outing on the weekends. They had all figured out transportation, and I didn't find out about it until the next week, and it was such an exciting moment. You're like, this has really become a true part of their lives.
Yeah. Graduation parties are really big.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't believe we're in graduation season already. Let's move on to the third pillar, whole school engagement. National Banner Schools champion awareness and education activities that promote inclusion. These schools implement at least 2 whole school engagement activities per school year, and students with and without disabilities are involved with planning and leading the awareness activities. A National Banner School is currently self-sustainable and has a plan in place to sustain the 3 components into the future. Can you each share what whole school engagement looks like in action in your schools?
Yeah, so at the high school, because it's so large, because there are so many students and there's so many clubs, we try to really just pick an activity per quarter, so 4 times a year, where we really try to reach as many students as possible, and then that also helps kind of the planning and implementation be more manageable. So in the fall, we do Unity Day. In the winter, we usually do some type of holiday sale where students will like create things and sell them, and go into classrooms to kind of advertise what they've made. In the spring, we do Spread the Word Day, and then in the third quarter or in the fourth quarter, we do a unified track and field day where students can volunteer and come be a part of it. We have a huge cheer gauntlet that is just my absolute favorite. I think I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, but yeah.
That's awesome.
We do those same events along with playing. We hold a basketball scrimmage at halftime of a varsity basketball game, which has been really successful in promoting our polar plunge as well. And then hosting, as Maxine had recently mentioned, we host an all-school soccer invitational. This year, our middle school joined us for the first time, and we had 2 different middle schools joining them, and then we had 2 different high schools joining us as well, and had 3 games going on our football field at the same time. But that really took from students running the scoreboard and videotaping, to people serving lunch, to setting up the field, to cleaning up the field, to the custodians setting out the tables and the benches, and it truly gets the entire school involved.
So in your spare time, between all of the planning, you each applied to be National Banner Schools. So I would love to hear what advice you have for schools interested in applying to be a National Banner School.
So I was thinking about this one, and I think the best advice that I have is, first of all, look at the list. You're probably already doing a lot of the things and meeting a lot of the standards that are on that, so applaud yourself for that. You have a great start. And then as for the other items, I think just pick 1 to 2 that you can tackle at a time, and really go from there. So in no time you'll meet all the standards, but yeah, I think if you can start small and pick ones that you know you can accomplish in a year's time, and bring your other stakeholders in. There's a lot of support that you can get from your teammates in order to achieve those standards.
For me, it was a goal. I set a goal that I knew I wanted to be able to achieve. Just so it's something for all of us to be so proud of accomplishing. So my advice is just do it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of our schools would be surprised if you look at the 10 standards that you may be doing all of them, or just have a few left, and it's really a wonderful way to celebrate all that you've achieved. What is a unified memory that makes kind of all of the hours that you put into the programming meaningful?
It's a memory that repeats itself. So every spring, like I mentioned before, we have a unified track and field day where we invite the elementary and middle school unified programs, and it starts off with a gauntlet. And as I mentioned, the high school has about 3,000 students, but all of the students from the whole building come out at the start of second block and create a cheer gauntlet, and our unified students from from elementary school to high school walk through the gauntlet in their pairs with our athletes and their partners, and it is so just beautiful and loud, and there's signs everywhere, and people are crying, and the smiles on the faces of our students are so big. And I cry every year because it's just so pretty, and it's just such a nice culmination of a year of inclusion and friendship, and it's a great way to celebrate that.
Absolutely. For me, one that I think back on is we had a few unified pairs that had made it to the state bocce tournament, and it just happened that it was also going to be on the day of our high school quarterfinal state football game. Our football team was not very good before this year, so it was a really big thing for our school. I don't know if they'd even won a game in quite a few years. So the quarterback and the star running back were two partners. And so I accepted before speaking to them and assumed we would have to pull out of that. They came to me and said, absolutely not. This means so much to our athletes that we are going to do this. I'm thinking their bus was going to leave early. They do a walk through the school. How would we make this all work? I had the football coach nervous because it was in Woodbury and we're out in Watertown. So we took a school van so we could get out of there if we had to leave early. Special Olympics was well aware. So I was so impressed that their dedication to our unified club meant just as much to them as in the quarterfinals of a state football game.
That's really awesome. Thank you both for sharing. So that concludes all of our game time questions, and I appreciate your willingness to share, pass on so much insight to our audience. We're going to close this episode with our leadership drill. So that's a part of our show where we share frequently asked questions, so you can always email that in, but we also have a lot of students that have some great questions. So today's leadership drill is a question from our Bethel Build intern, Jenna Perkins, and we talked a little bit about the first person that maybe modeled inclusion to you, and who is a leader that models inclusion to you both today. When I was first thinking about this question, I was kind of thinking about big leaders that maybe have like higher recognition, and then I started to think about more in my life. So kind of going off of the first person that modeled inclusion was my mom as a teacher. But then she always said that she wanted us to stand on her shoulders, and I think that if she was doing something well, she would hope that we would continue off of that and be able to stand on top of her shoulders. And so that's something that I get to see now through my sister, who is a mom of a neurodiverse child, and seeing her be a parent and a champion, and just kind of taking that inclusion forward, and it's been really beautiful to see. So shout out to my sister. She'll have to listen to hear that, but I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah. So mine is actually going to be my husband. So our youngest child got diagnosed with autism 2 years ago, and my husband used to be a girls' high school hockey coach, and it was a lot of work and a lot of time. So he actually, after the last season a few years ago, he was going to be done, and then someone was like, "Hey, do you want to coach Special Olympics floor hockey? Do you want to try that out this, you don't have your winter full of girls hockey anymore." And so he was like, "Sure, I'll try that out." So he did it. And then the next season, "Do you want to do basketball?" "Sure." "Do you want to do golf?" "Sure." "Do you want to do flag football?" "Sure." So now he coaches Special Olympics year round, and it's been really fun to see, and he actually has a ton of my former students, so it's been really fun to see him really embrace our life and our son, and to go and create opportunities and be part of opportunities for other individuals with disabilities. So that's been really cool. Yep.
I'm going to say some of my students, truly. There are moments that I may lose hope or become a little bit discouraged, and they, are continuing to do the right thing, the things that we believe in. We personally at our school believe that a unified partner is a supporting cast. and the athletes should be the stars. And sometimes I can even get a little competitive and like, come on, let's go. You guys can score once or twice. It's okay. And they will remind me, no, we're going to continue to be the supporting cast. So that makes me so proud. And in those moments, I believe they make me a better person.
I do. I feel like getting to see the youth in Unified in Minnesota, it gives you so much hope for the future as they take on creating inclusion in our world. So the cool down is where we're going to give you the opportunity to leave our listeners with kind of that final nugget of wisdom. So the final question for you both is, what advice would you give to our youth, educators, athletes, and families in their leadership journey with Special Olympics Minnesota?
My advice, and this is how it's always been when I've had people come kind of tour Glomies and see, is to start small. Start with something that you know you can do and then grow from there. Add in a new element when you feel like you've got that first thing down. And then as you become more comfortable, continue to grow and find opportunities where maybe you're not reaching certain groups but go small, because it can be overwhelming, especially when you see some more established programs. So if you can just pick that one thing and then get that thing real good and then pick another thing to grow on.
I think finding a mentor is wonderful. Start wherever you need to start. Be you. You'll make it, what works best for you. I personally felt that when I started, I needed to find a few student leaders or students that the other students saw as leaders, and that builds on itself.
I think, that's very similar to what my thought is. That every time that I meet with an educator that's interested in Unified Champion School, there's so many ways that they're already working on one of the 3 pillars. So identifying what that is and just getting started has really just moved the mission forward. Well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your willingness and insight on National Banner School recognition. If you're interested in applying to be a National Banner School, the application process through Special Olympics North America is open through June 2nd. Email schools at SOMN for more information, and we are happy to support you in the application process. All right, thank you.
We are rolling into our last segment of the day, and that is the Opportunity Share segment. Listeners, this is the prime time for you to stay in the know of what's happening at Special Olympics MN. My colleague Eloise on the schools team is here to join me today.
Thank you, Abby. During our Opportunity Share, we will always have a UCS staff here to share upcoming UCS and SOMN events for all of you to stay in the know of what's happening and find opportunities to stay involved with our state office. Abby, can you share with our audience the earliest opportunity to become involved in the Special Olympics Minnesota?
Yes, I can. Young Athlete is a creative sports play program that introduces children ages 2 to 7 years old with and without intellectual disabilities to the world of sports. There is no better way to introduce children to the Special Olympics community than through Young Athletes, fostering inclusion in a fun and engaging setting for all.
In partnership with St. Paul Parks and Recreation, Young Athletes will be offering a summer program beginning Saturday, June 7th through July 19th at the Frogtown Community Center. Other Young Athletes locations includes Plymouth, Big Lake, Brooklyn Park, and Minnetonka.
Young Athletes is one of the many SOMN opportunities made possible by our dedicated volunteers.
Here in Minnesota, we serve thousands of individuals with intellectual disabilities every year through sports training, competition, free health screenings, leadership trainings, and more. None of this would be possible without our volunteers.
We're looking for volunteers to help at Young Athletes sessions across Minnesota.
Volunteers help lead children through a series of activities, sports-related skills and drills approximately once a week for 6 to 8 weeks. Training and equipment provided. If you're interested, please contact volunteers at somn.org.
During this episode, we have the opportunity to hear from
Minnesota's National Banner Schools Educators.
A Special Olympics Unified Champion School has an inclusive school climate that exudes a sense of collaboration, engagement, and respect for all members of the student body and staff. A Unified Champion School receiving national banner recognition is one that has demonstrated commitment to inclusion by meeting 10 national standards of excellence.
The National Recognition Program application cycle is currently open through June 2nd. We encourage our Unified Champion Schools to apply. That is all for our Opportunity Share segment this episode. If you have any questions on how to become more involved or are looking for more information on how to become a Unified Champion School, send us an email at schools@somn.org.
Abby, will you close us out with the athlete oath?
As an athlete for 20 years with SOMN, I would love to. Are you ready, Eloise?
I'm ready.
Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. Thanks for joining us for episode 2 of the Unified Exchange.